You have a better chance of getting hit by a tornado and a bolt of lightning and a hurricane all at the same time. This is the statement of Michael Reynolds, an astronomer from Florida State College, during an interview with National Geographic. He was speaking about the rare case of a woman who survived being hit by a meteorite. The chances of being struck by a meteorite are unimaginably small, yet it happened to Ann Hodges. But how did a celestial rock become an inescapable weight in her life? On November 30th, 1954, 34-year-old Ann Elizabeth Fowler Hodges was napping on her sofa in Sylacauga, Alabama. She was jolted awake by a sudden pain and loud noise, initially believing her gas heater had exploded. It wasn't until she noticed a grapefruit-sized rock on the floor and a jagged hole in her roof that she began to suspect something unusual. Her first thought was that mischievous children were to blame. Ann's mother, Ida Franklin, rushed outside, but all she could see was a dark cloud hanging in the sky. Meanwhile, across the region, residents witnessed the extraordinary event from various perspectives. Many described seeing a fireball streaking through the sky, followed by a deafening explosion that left behind a white or brownish cloud. At first, people assumed it was the result of an airplane crash. It was soon revealed that a meteorite had crashed through the roof of Ann's home, ricocheted off a radio, and struck her on the hip. Though she was bruised and shaken, Ann remarkably survived, becoming the first and so far only documented human to be directly hit by a meteorite. While meteors travel at great speeds, they lose significant kinetic energy as they pass through the atmosphere. Upon crashing through her roof, the meteorite transferred even more energy and slowed further after striking a radio on the way down. By the time it reached Ann, its impact was much less severe, factors that greatly contributed to her survival of this rare event. Ann's husband, a utility worker named Eugene Hodges, had no idea about the extraordinary event that had unfolded at home until he returned from work later that day. As he arrived, he was met with a crowd of curious onlookers swarming their house. The commotion was so overwhelming that Eugene had to physically push gawkers off the porch just to get inside. "We had a little excitement around here today," Ann remarked to the Associated Press with an understated tone. Chief of Police W.D. Ashcraft and Mayor Ed Howard responded to the incident at the Hodges residence. The 8.5-pound meteorite was examined by a geologist and later sent to Air Force authorities for analysis, eventually ending up at the Smithsonian Institution. After intervention by a congressman, it was returned to Alabama, where it became the center of a legal dispute. The aftermath of the incident was far from ordinary. The impact caused significant injury, including a large hematoma, but with proper medical care, she was able to recover and walk again. However, the incident brought more than physical pain. Dozens of reporters swarmed her porch, eager to capture her story, overwhelming her to the point of experiencing an anxiety attack that required hospitalization. On some days, as many as 200 journalists would flock to her house. According to her husband, the intense attention transformed her natural shyness into full-blown social anxiety, and she began struggling with various health issues. The buzz surrounding the incident didn't fade quickly, as television, radio, and newspapers kept the story alive for weeks. At the center of the attention was a heated legal battle between Ann Hodges and her landlady, Bertie Guy, who owned the house the Hodges rented. The landlady claimed ownership of the meteorite, while Ann insisted suing is the only way she'll ever get it, adding, "I think God intended it for me. After all, it hit me." Faced with repair costs for the house, the landlady was advised by her attorney that legal precedent favored landowners in disputes over meteorites. Confident in her claim, she sued for possession of the space rock. In response, the Hodges threatened to counter-sue for Ann's injuries, and public opinion overwhelmingly sided with Ann, viewing her as the rightful owner. Before the case went to trial, both sides reached a private settlement. The landlady withdrew her lawsuit in exchange for $500, and the Hodges took full ownership of the meteorite, convinced they could sell it for a much higher price. For months, the meteorite passed between various authorities, before finally returning to Ann and her husband. Initially, offers for the meteorite reached as high as $5,500. However, By the time the Hodgeses regained sole possession of the rock, over a year after it fell, the incident had lost much of its relevance and public interest had significantly diminished. This was partly because they no longer had a unique piece of the celestial rock. The day after Ann's incident, a local farmer named Julius McKinney discovered another fragment weighing 1.68 kilograms. McKinney quickly sold his find to the Smithsonian Institution for a sum that enabled him to buy both a car and a house. While the Hodgeses and their landlady were still locked in a legal battle, McKinney had already profited from his discovery. In 1956, Ann convinced her husband to donate the meteorite to the Natural History Museum at the University of Alabama, hoping to escape the spotlight. While this provided some temporary relief, it did little to resolve her deeper struggles. Ann's mental health continued to decline, and in 1964, she and Eugene separated. Tragically, Ann passed away in 1972 at the age of 52 due to kidney failure. She remained convinced that the meteorite, known both as the Sylacauga meteorite and more famously, the Hodges meteorite, was the cause of all her misfortunes, having struck her that fateful day. Every year, thousands of meteorites head toward Earth, but only a few hundred make it through the atmosphere. Fortunately for us, most of these rocks land in uninhabited areas like the sea or deserts, with only a handful being retrieved each year. Ann Hodges' encounter with the meteorite was a once-in-a-lifetime event. While it was a rare stroke of fate, the aftermath was filled with unexpected struggles, social anxiety, a broken marriage, and a life forever changed. It's a stark reminder that one single phenomenon can shift the course of our lives. As we gaze at the stars, we are reminded that the universe is full of surprises, and we are all part of its vast, unpredictable story.